Hello, it's me, Clayton. I just got back from seeing Snake Eyes. This is the first film in what's going to be a series, at least they hope, when it comes to rebooting the G.I. Joe franchise. After two disappointing G.I. Joe movies, it seems that Hasbro has decided to give each of the G.I. Joe characters their own origin story film, with Snake Eyes coming first because he's at least the character that everyone liked in the cartoons, the comics, and even the two movies. And this origin story gives us the first sight of Snake Eyes without the mask and with an actual voice. So it's definitely going to be a little bit jarring for those who grew up with Snake Eyes without him speaking and without seeing his face even once. But does it work? It works out fine, but it could have been done better. Let's get to the story, shall we? The story is about Snake Eyes, played by Henry Golding, who is on the hunt for the man who killed his father. However, after he ends up being embroiled in the Yakuza, he ends up meeting this guy named Tommy, played by Andrew Koji, who, as it turns out, is one of the leading members of the Arashi Kage, this group of ninja who try to keep the peace throughout Japan. Tommy brings Snake Eyes over to the Arashikage headquarters so he can take the 3 trials of the warrior and so he can join their ranks. However, several villains from Cobra, including the Baroness, decide to try and use Snake Eyes' desire for revenge against him by trying to have him betray the Arashikage. But that's all I'll say about the story. The story here, as far as an origin story for why Snake Eye ends up the way he does ultimately work in some respects, but there's never a point in the film where he goes to his faceless and voiceless roots. Instead, he's pretty bog standard when it comes to being an action hero, and even though Henry Golding does his best in the role, he does feel generic, which makes it feel odd that he was even given this origin to begin with. Thankfully, when it comes to the other elements of the G.I. Joe franchise, they are handled pretty well. Andrew Koji is very believable and very vengeance-fueled as Tommy, aka the white ninja who ends up being his rival in the cartoons. And I really do like how they build up his rivalry with Snake Eyes. Also, the Baroness happens to fit her role pretty well. She's definitely got the look and the general personality down. And even Scarlet from the original series comes in at one point, played by Samara Weaving. And if they plan to do more movies, I think she's right for the role. She looks good in the action scenes, she gets the general roots of the character down, and I also really like the fact that it is a movie that features Cobra soldiers fighting ninjas, and it manages to work with that ridiculousness while having the film look generally decent with its effects. It's not going to blow your socks off, but the effects do work for the most part, even when they get into the ridiculous, total nonsense fantasy stuff that G.I. Joe sometimes indulges in. Granted, there's no Duke and there's no Cobra Commander, but I'm guessing they're saving them for future movies. Even though the film's 2 hours long, it doesn't really feel that long, at least for the first act and for the third act. The second act, however, is where things start to drag. I can see some people getting bored at certain points, despite the many, many action scenes, which are actually skillfully directed. Surprising for the man who directed R.I.P.D. in one of the Divergent movies, but it is what it is. So as a whole, Snake Eyes isn't going to reinvent the wheel when it comes to origin story films, but it's definitely not anywhere near the disaster of, say, X-Men Origins Wolverine. I think there's room for improvement, but I think it's the best G.I. Joe film of the bunch so far. Not saying much when it comes to the other G.I. Joe movies, but I do think it's a decent starting point for more origin movies. That's why I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. See you next time.